Hey guys, welcome back to another video where we are going to look at the anonymous page feature which will be made available starting Agile.NX version 9. Few years back, we introduced anonymous forms feature that quickly became very popular. This feature enabled enterprises to engage with their customers, partners, vendors, and other people outside their organization boundaries without having to issue any company credentials, but still making sure security policies were being enforced. Later, we introduced Page Builder module, which helped companies totally rebrand their Agile Point portal experience, but that took effect only once the user logged into the Agile Point portal. The requirement was to provide Experience Builder for internal users to make the Agile Point portal look exactly like their intranet sites. External users still had to go through public facing sites to access any anonymous forms URL which could be put as a link on the external website. Recently, a few use cases popped up with the necessity to expose certain Agile Point portal pages outside of enterprise. The typical use cases could be such as putting up a quick event registration page or a webinar page backed up by forms, integrations, and workflows without having to change the website again and again. With Agile.NX version 9, we have introduced an option to enable disable anonymous access feature on portal page created in the Page Builder module. Let's look at this in action. So I'm in my Agile Point portal right now, and I'm going to navigate to the Page Builder module. We'll go to Page Designer, open one of these pages, and if I look at the publish history, there's one version of this page which has been published. If I go to settings, I'm going to copy the URL over here. I'm going to go to one of my private browser windows and paste it. Now, because I have not enabled anonymous access for this page, it is showing me a login screen, which is the behavior you saw till now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I've already checked out the file. I'm going to go to settings, and you'll find a new section over here called anonymous access settings. Now, in order to use the anonymous access, you need to have certain things in place, just like we had for anonymous forms. So I'm going to go to Manage Center and first show you all the prerequisites. The first prerequisite is to make sure there is an anonymous user access token which is created. So if you see, there is an access token type called anonymous end user. Previously, it was called anonymous eForms. It has been rebranded because now it is applicable to the page as well. And I've got a couple of them created over here. If I open this one, for example, click Edit Token. It has a name, description, domain, username, password, and then I can enable password expiry notification if I want it on this. So I've already created these two tokens. So the tokens have to be in place. Remember, for the anonymous forms, it could be a global level token or it could be an app level token. For anonymous pages, since there is no app level token concept, you will have to create a global access token of type anonymous end user. Similarly, if I go to access control, there are two permissions which are required to use anonymous forms or page capability. If you go back over here, the first permission which is needed is for the page designer, the person who is designing the page, he should have at least view global application resources so that he can see the names of those access tokens which we just saw. Similarly, if I go to the app builder section, I need to enable anonymous end user access. Previously, this was called enable anonymous forms. So you have to have these two checked. Now, if I go back to the page builder, I see this section because I have given those permissions. If I expand it, there is a drop down where I can specify the access token, and these are the access tokens. If you remember seeing the two access tokens, these are the ones coming from my global access token area. Now, one of the things is that the user who is going to be used in these access tokens is the one all the API calls will be made on behalf of. So that user has to have access to the page. Currently, if you look at it, if I close this and go to permissions, I have a user called Nishant Beta in it. Page designers also the same user, and page viewers also the same user. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a token which doesn't have that user. It has a test user. So I'm going to go ahead and say select the test token, and it tells me the user used in this token is not present in the security groups used on the page. Do I want to add it? I'm going to say yes. So this goes ahead and adds the user and gives him permission. At a minimum, you need the page viewer permission level. You can also add any whitelisted APIs over here as well. Now this is the same concept as eForms. Now in eForms, people tend to make a lot more API calls to the Agile Point backend endpoints, whether it is a server API endpoint or whether it is a data entity endpoint. They tend to make a lot more such calls. In Page, it is rare to make calls back to Agile Point server. However, there might be scenarios where you are injecting your own custom JavaScripts and you are making calls back to the Agile Point server. By default, everything would be blocked except the APIs which are required by the page builder module itself. If you want to make an API call to an Agile Point backend API like create process instance or maybe fetch data from data entity, you can always go in, whitelist that endpoint and the payload, and then you will be allowed to make that call. I'm going to go ahead and click generate. It generated the token. I'm going to copy it over and click save. Now at this point of time, if I close the settings window over here, and I'm going to go ahead and click publish. First I'll check in the file, click publish. If I go to publish history, I see a new element over here, anonymous link. You can always copy it over. If I go back to the private window over here, previously if you remember I was seeing the login screen. If I now paste it, the actual page comes up. So it is now accessible anonymously. Let's go back to the window over here. I'm going to close this over. Now there are certain things which need to be remembered about the anonymous page feature. There are certain widgets which cannot be used in anonymous page. We're going to look at it. So I'm going to check out the file. If I scroll down, add a new row, add widget. You cannot add a work center widget to anonymous page because work center widget would mean you need a user logged into the system. Similarly, you cannot use the report part over here. The rest of the widgets can be used. For eForms, you can use an eForm only if the form has been marked as anonymous. So those are some of the rules which have to be followed. I'm going to quickly show you another example of a use case. So I'm going to go to another page and I'm going to go to publish history, copy the link, go back to my private browser window, paste the link. Here is an example of a page of a company employee directory which has been created using the page builder module, which required forms, integrations behind the scene. So as you can see, it is showing me that in the company directory, there is an employee name search, title, professional areas of expertise, activities, memberships, those kind of things are shown. So you can create these kind of pages as well and embed it within your main website. Now the idea with this feature is not to replace products like WordPress or Wix. Those have their own advantages as well. With anonymous page, you can quickly spin up a temporary page. You can share it with external audience where they might have a link for a survey or a survey to fill in line. So with this, we come to the end of this video. Thanks a lot for your time.